Over to you, Shalom.
Okay, so I'll
I
start by sharing my screen first.
Yep.
Hold on. Okay, so from where Andrew left off was this part. So, okay, so I just now introduced myself briefly. So I will introduce myself like in the way where I talk about my experience, because just now I told you guys like the who I am and where I'm from, right? So to be able to conduct the training, right, I must have some experience. So to share with you my experience is that I've been with Andrew for like I think the past 8 months, I guess. And then during the past 8 months, I actually participated in like website design, website development. Then for some of you might wonder like what development I did, right, was like a few of the website that Andrew mentioned previously, like in his previous slides, some of the website that I've been working on. So I helped him in like managing the website and also creating new pages, like content for him and of course for the visitors of his website. Then other things that I worked on was like digital marketing. This includes Facebook, Facebook advertisement, Google advertisement, etc. And then I also did some, yeah, the other two is just administration and networking. So these are basic things that I did during my internship with Andrew, and also some of the times, some of the months that I've been doing for the, yeah, after my intern. So for my part, I'll be touching more on the functions that you will be able to see in cPanel. So some of you might not be familiar with what cPanel is. So sorry, you guys are able to screen, right? I hope. Yeah, okay, I'm sharing just in case. So cPanel is basically the back end of your website. So what this means is basically like it's like a human body. It's like your website is basically your skin, and then the skeleton is basically the back end, which is this. So it might look very chim a bit because of the things that you have to manage here. So of course I don't have time to go through every single one of the functions. So I'll touch on the more important ones and the ones that you should be like aware of lah. Because in certain times, maybe for example, you're stuck outside of your WordPress, or maybe you're stuck outside of your website. What can you do to actually uh re-enter your website or maybe refresh your website? Because like if your website is crashed, right, then your visitors will be the first person to get affected, right? So it's better to like resolve such issue as soon as possible. So back to the slides. So these are the things that I'll be going through. uh I'll be touching them one by one, so I won't be reading all out. You can refer it to yourself, like the list. So the first one is what Andrew just mentioned. So you can see the highlighted part. So what Andrew mentioned just now was that this is the server where your website will be pointed to. So to like say in a layman term, right, it's like when you want to go to someone's house in like tomorrow, maybe you want to go to someone's house, the first thing you ask, what's your postal code? So these numbers and this mixture of numbers and letters, right, is basically like the postal code of your website. So it helps people on the internet to know where to direct the visitors to when they want to visit a certain domain. So yeah, that's something I try to explain in a layman term. Hopefully it's more clear. So how do you go about like doing this? Is basically just now Andrew showed you when you enter Namecheap. So uh example, I'm already entered into Namecheap. I'm already logged in. So what you can do is you go to dashboard. I'm demonstrating how you can actually locate like the, sorry, I have to log in. So I'm basically demonstrating how to link your, not really link, but direct your domain so that when people search a certain domain on the website, on internet basically, they will be directed to your domain itself. So take for example this valuesleep.com. So you can manage. So they will bring you to your domain list. So these are basically the list of domains that you have. And then when you press, they will bring you into this part, which is so-called the details or information of that domain itself. So Andrew highlighted this previously, right? So where can you actually get this, right? It's very simple. You go to your cPanel. When you log into SiteGround, the first thing you will see is this is how it looks like when you enter SiteGround. After you log in now, of course. So this is how SiteGround look like. when you log in. So what you need to do is very simple. You just need to make sure that you can find the server name and then insert it here. So this is Namecheap, which is the provider of your domain. So you need to provide them a direction to point your domain to, because you buy a domain from the provider. So the provider don't know where you want to park your domain in. So for example, you are buying it from you are buying a plan from SiteGround, who is the host of your website. So what you do is you get the so-called postal code from your host, which is SiteGround, and then you paste it here. So give me a moment while I show you where to actually locate the so-called your IP address, which is postal code in some way. So you can click on website, and then you can click on cPanel. And on the top left-hand corner, can you see this part? This is basically your name of the server, which is your so-called postal code to let the domain be pointed there. So you just copy this, the two lines, and then you paste it here. So after that, you just maybe wait for like less than 24 hours. Your domain will be automatically pointed to your SiteGround account or your host. Then from there, you can continue with building your website, setting up your website, configuring certain things for your website, etc. So with that with that done, we can go on to the second part, which is what Andrew talked about, subdomains. So subdomains have like many users, like what Andrew said. So one of the users that bigger companies like to do is, for example, they like to break down their domain into smaller sections so that it's easier to manage through different departments. Take for example, if I have a company called XL, then I would like to have a store. So I can name my subdomain as store.xl.com. So at least your visitors will be like aware that what they are looking at is basically your store. And then maybe I have a podcast for my business. So I have podcast.xl.com. So you don't have to pay additional fees for every domain you buy. So subdomains are actually domains that are categorized under your main domain, which is, for example, the example I gave was xl.com. So you're just paying for one domain, but you have multiple websites that you can work with. Yeah. So for this, right, I will show you how to actually go about setting up. So you can see when you log into your cPanel, right? So in the first part, the first section, you can see the word domains. So from there, you can actually see subdomains. Then when you click on subdomains, you can actually create a subdomain for your main domain so that people can actually identify what they are looking at. So an example that the website will give is like, for example, support.referenceflorian.sg. So for example, I want to create a store. So I can just create a subdomain of store.referenceflorian.com.sg. So it's actually that simple. So after you click create, right? Sorry. After you click create, it will just pop out here, and then you can manage the redirection from there. So it's really quite simple. So there are actually many users for subdomains apart from breaking down your main domain, right? For example, I would like to create, I want to create a new layout for my main domain. For example, I want to change the whole entire layout or the whole entire design of my website. But then you can't risk losing the few days just to so-called renovate your website. Right? So what you can do is you create all your design on a subdomain, and after that you can transfer all the designs in your subdomain over to your main domain. So it actually doesn't waste any of your time. So when visitors visit your website, right, they won't be they won't be lost or confused. So that's another way you can make use of subdomains. And the best part is, like I said, it's free. So why not use it, right? So after you create subdomains, right, I will now talk about okay, subdomains are like somewhat of a redirection, but it's actually still under your main domain. So like what I mentioned just now, right? For example, you want to so-called renovate your website, but then you don't want to risk losing the few days of visitors visiting your website and then them not being able to view information on your website. So what you can do is do a redirection. It's really quite simple. So back to the cPanel page, right? On the same section, you can see redirects. So like I mentioned, you won't want to compromise the few days where your visitor won't be able to see anything on your website. So what you can do is very simple. After you create a subdomain, and then you have created a whole new website design for your main domain, you can redirect, for example, yeah, Andrew Ang. Then I can redirect directly to my main website, for example. Yeah, so as you can see, this is my subdomain, and then I'm redirecting it to my main domain. So what does this actually mean? So for example, I'm a visitor, and then I click a new tab, then I visit Andrew andrewang.rafflesprovident.com. So if once I click enter in my search bar, right, I won't be brought to this domain, but I will be redirected to this domain. So that's like a brief idea of how redirecting works out. So it's actually quite useful if you're like trying to not compromise the few days of so-called renovating your website. Or maybe, for example, your website is down for a certain reason and you don't want your visitors to be like in the website looking confused or very hard to navigate through your website. You can create a like backup website or backup subdomain and then redirect them from the main domain to your subdomain. So that during the period where you're trying to fix the main domain problems, you can actually not lose any so-called potential customers. This is actually very effective, especially if your business is like online based and then it's like all your clients contact you via your website. So that's something you need to take note of. Then moving on, installing WordPress. So I will make an example of how you can actually do what I just mentioned to you, because it's like if I separately do it, then it sounds a bit like not linked. So what I will do is I will give an example. So for example, I create a simple one, which is training dot um okay, I select value slip. So for example, I create this. Okay, so you have successfully created training.valueslist.com. So now this is one of my subdomain for my valuelist.com. So what I can do is very simple. I go to my cPanel. For instance, I want to redirect my people who type training.valuelist.com into my main domain. So I just go redirect. Yep, I select this. Then I can just add this, and then everyone who enters this in the search bar, they will be led to valuelist.com. Eh? I don't know if you guys are aware, like when if I were to type in agency, redirect me to, sorry. Yeah, invisible, sorry. So yeah, so this is like a basic idea of how the redirecting works out. I hope it's like quite clear. So for some of you, right, like if you just doing it for a certain period, for example, you open a subdomain and you're selling a promotional deal, like for example, a seasonal deal that only like offer during summer break. Then you can actually create a subdomain with all your products during the promotion, and then you create a temporary one. So it'll bring them to the page for only that period of time. So what I'm trying to say is like basically, this is my main website, right? And then I have a store that actually sells during the September break, for example. Then I can bring them to maybe store.rafflesprovident.com.sg. So what this does, right, is basically it brings them there for only a short period of time. And then the person will not be the person who, like, example, is a regular customer, right? He will not be able to, like, his bookmark or maybe his history will not be aware that this is a new website. So in a later date when your promotion is down and you take down the subdomain, whenever your client type in the domain name, it will be brought back to the old one without them knowing that there's a change. So it actually helps in a way that it doesn't let people know that you have like you have multiple subdomains. So that's a good way to like manage your so-called stores, or if you have any promotional deals, or maybe like I said, you are renovating your website. So continue from there using example. I will also do the installation of a WordPress. So what is WordPress? WordPress is basically what Andrew said lah, is the software that helps you build your website. Yeah. And it have like plugins for you to create to use and then create your own layout, etc. So how do you go about downloading it? It's actually quite simple. You just go to WordPress tools, also under your cPanel, which is the fourth section. You just click on this. So it'll bring you here. And under the install button, you can see a drop down arrow. So you just click on that, then you click install. So I'll use the example of my subdomain, which is training.bellezy.com. Yep, here it is. So I want to have WordPress software for this website because, like I said, this website is new. Like I've done previously lah. This website is being created like maybe like 5 minutes ago. So it doesn't have a WordPress, or there isn't a page for it. So I want to create a page. So assuming I want to name it like training, then the password will be, yeah, just some random. Okay, so what is this, right? This is basically when you enter the website, right? For example, you want to edit the website, right? You will need this username and this password to actually edit whatever that is in the website. And then this is a default admin email that will be provided to you when you create a WordPress account. Yeah. So you can just click install, and then they will take like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, depending on. Sorry, click. Okay, I can't really download because I redirected the website to the main website. So yeah, the idea is basically you select the domain that you have newly created that doesn't have a WordPress software, and then you can simply just install it. So after you install, right, you actually appear in the overview. So here's an example. So here are the lists. As you can see, there are some subdomains like rt.jaga.community. That's a subdomain and it has its own website. So if you create like subdomains, right, you can actually like create multiple websites, since this WordPress can be installed on subdomains, which in other words means that you can create a whole new website on your subdomain. Yeah, so that's the basic idea. So after you install, right, there's one common thing is that, if you don't use WordPress very often, right, you tend to forget the password. So this is one simple thing I think everyone should know lah, because if you were to like spend time trying to contact the support team, right, it actually takes quite some time for them to change the password, because it's a very simple step, but if you want to wait for the support team, then it will take longer than average. So I will teach you the very simple step, which is still in this page. All you need to do is go to your overview, which is the page where it shows a list of your WordPress accounts or WordPress software installed on your domains. You just click the pencil, for example, RT, you can just edit. From here, then you can change the password. Is there any questions? Hello?
Hi, sorry. So the WordPress is being installed in the SiteGround, is it?
Okay, so that question, okay, it's not really installed, but it's like a provided software. It's like when you buy a plan from SiteGround, they provide the WordPress software for free. So it's like a somewhat of an add-on now. So it's not like pre-installed, but more like you have to install it on your own if you want to use it. It's free to use, but to use it, you have to install it yourself first. Does that make sense? Does it answer
Yeah,
your question? Sorry.
because I thought the WordPress was like a different thing from SiteGround.
Uh, it is a different thing.
It's
Like
a
in
different
terms
thing,
of
yeah.
if you consider it, yeah. Okay, so SiteGround, right? I would say it's like a host, and it's more like a platform for you to manage your website. Then for WordPress, it's a software where you can edit your website. So there's the difference. WordPress is like a builder, and then SiteGround is like a platform. So there's a difference. But for the question that you asked whether it is like a pre-installed thing, then I would say it's not lah. It's like it is there for you to use, but you can choose not to use it, something like that. But WordPress is the best way for you to actually create your websites. Yeah. Okay, I will give everyone like a 5 minute break. So we will come back at like 9:08, like for you guys to digest. And also for those that have questions to ask regarding